Greetings and welcome back to Room 303, AP English, the Roberts text. We are with you now on page 771, Marianne Moore's classic, The Fish from 1918. Now we've already worked with some other Moore on LearnStrong.net in Roberts, page 1182. We've done her classic as well, poetry. We've already spoken a little about Moore and her autobiography, 1887 to 1972. An American modernist is usually what she qualified as. We just call her genius in 303. She is one of the great inspirations for so many of us as we write our poetry. She's a great critic and translator as well as editor of great poetry. Her poetry is, if you do any research on her, is often qualified as, very innovative, although at the same time very formal. The diction is going to be all about precision. There's always going to be some irony. There's always going to be some wit. We're even going to see this game get played here. We really do have one of the more amazing poems that we study together, certainly out of our Roberts text for AP. Some students have pointed out, some readers of this poem have pointed out, the way in which the poem actually has a tendency to move like the waves of the ocean, which is, of course, what it will be describing. We think a little bit at 3A about some of the comments that have been made about Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, and the way that I almost called it a poem, that beautiful prose poem will open with a boat moored on the Thames, and there's this sense of a movement of the prose, so much so that you almost get the feeling of a boat that is in fact moored. Now, here at 2B right away, we're going to be focusing on the construction of the poem. We're going to first of all notice that the poem is a title, The Fish, which is actually the first line of the poem, The Fish Wade Through Black Jade. We're also going to notice as well that there's a clear structure, syllabic structure, the syllables themselves, 1, 3, 9, 6, and 8 syllables per line per stanza. Which makes this poem even more fun to study and to read, because you get the sense that Moore is playing around with the language, which is what we've always said great poets do, at play in the fields of language. Let's go ahead and read the poem and spend a few minutes just marveling at the genius. The fish wade through black jade. Of the crow-blue mussel shells, one keeps adjusting the ash heaps, opening and shutting itself like an injured fan. The barnacles which encrust the side of the wave cannot hide there, for the submerged shafts of the sun, split like spun glass, move themselves with spotlight swiftness into the crevices, in and out, illuminating the turquoise sea of bodies. The water drives a wedge of iron through the iron edge of the cliff, whereupon the stars, pink rice grains, ink bespattered jellyfish, crabs like green lilies, and submarine toadstools slide each on the other. All external marks of abuse are present on this defiant edifice, all the physical features of accident, lack of cornice, dynamite grooves, burns, and hatchet strokes, these things stand out on it. The chasm side is dead. Repeated evidences prove that it can live on what cannot revive its youth. The sea grows old in it. Now, I'm hoping that you're looking at a physical copy of this poem as we read it, so you can marvel again at its construction. You can marvel at line 31 and 32, the breaking up of the word accident. I mean, how many poets play games like this? We immediately will think later of T.S. Eliot, and as we will say in our comments at 3A, comparisons to other texts, I think Eliot, when he wrote The Dry South Ages, that magnificent third poem of the four quartets, The river is within us, the sea is all about us. The sea is the land's edge also, the granite into which it reaches, the beaches where it tosses its hints of earlier another creation. And then he goes through that list, the starfish, the hermit crab, the whale's backbone, the pools, where it offers up to our curiosity, the more delicate algae in the sea anemone. I have a sense that directly, right, T.S. Eliot is honoring a text like this one. Let's go through the poem now and just really enjoy what the game that Moore is playing. And it is a game. Come on, let's say it out loud. Let's say what it is. She's clearly having fun with the whole notion of what is this poem actually about. Was it actually about one fish? Is it about all fish? Is it about the world of the subterranean, of the subaquatic? I mean, is that really what's being played here? Or are we rather playing bigger games? That is to say, the joy of nature, the fact that no matter what humans seem to want to do, here will sound like Lord Byron in apostrophe to the ocean is something in the end that it's going to win every time. Of course, environmentally, we have our doubts all of a sudden about that, don't we? But let's play the game nonetheless. Notice, the fish wade through a black jade, and we begin to realize this is really a poem about the descriptions of the world of fish, that is to say, the ocean. Of the crow-blue mussel shells, one keeps adjusting the ash heaps. The word one is a powerful word in that line because, of course, it raises the question of one what, one who, right? One how, we might even say, opening and shutting itself, and then a brilliant simile, like an injured fan. Now, what is an injured fan? Well, of course, an injured fan, for those of you who have ever seen those fans that open up, right? An injured fan is a broken fan. That is to say, it doesn't always quite open the same way when it's been jacked. Children, of course, know this all too well because it's usually one of the first things they do when they get one of these kind of fans is to break them in some way, and then or injure it in some way. And then, of course, it doesn't quite work quite right. And yet there's something beautiful about the fact that it opens up differently every time. So notice this idea that the ocean, we're thinking now, of course, of our Heraclitus. Again, back to T.S. Eliot and Four Quartets. You can't step into the same river twice. That is to say, the fan never quite opens the same way. In the same way that an ocean, it's the same, but never the same, right? The barnacles, which encrust the side of the wave, cannot hide there for the submerged shafts of the sun. And then notice all of our S sounds. Split, and then another interesting use of the word like spun glass, move themselves with spotless swiftness in the crevices, in and out, illuminating the turquoise sea of bodies. Now, all the S sounds, jot down in your notes to be, what is it all these S sounds do for you as you read the poem? Especially this poem, which I argue has to be read out loud, has to be read the way waves move or undulate, we might say. The water drives a wedge of iron through the iron edge of the cliff. And again, I can't help but read these lines and think of T.S. Eliot's Dry Salvages. We've given lectures on these sets of lines from Dry Salvages elsewhere at learnstrong.net. Whereupon, it's almost as if she's telling a story, right? That is to say, the next thing, the stars, pink, rice grains, ink besplattered jellyfish, crabs, and the moment we hear crabs, we're back to our T.S. Eliot and the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. I should have been a pair of ragged claws scuttling across the floors of silent seas, right? The crabs, like green lilies, more similes going on, and submarine toadstools slide each on the other. I think the word slide is one of the key words and one of the key verbs. Of course, as we've said many, many times, you're going to be a great poet. You have to pay attention to your adjectives and your verbs. Notice the verb slide here, as it works so well because this is what the motion of the ocean does to all things subaquatic, right? The sliding, the moving, right? All external marks of abuse are present on this defiant edifice. Now, this is the merging of the land and the sea word pictures, right? All the physical features of, and then the word is broken up, right? Accident. And then what is it that's there that's not there, right? Lack of cornice, dynamite grooves, burns, hatchet strokes, all the things humans do, of course, to the land. These things stand out on it. The chasm side is dead. And the beautiful idea that somehow there is no way to, in the end, understand. This is, again, the idea that the ocean is translinguistic, it is beyond, which is why, of course, it's so often used in metaphysical poetry to describe things like life or love or existence. Repeated evidence has proved that it can live on what cannot revive its youth. And then the final beautiful line, the sea grows old in it. In other words, there's something beyond the sea or the ocean that is in fact the sea or the ocean. The roots of the sea as we might think about it, right? The beginnings, the genesis. And of course, in so many mythic texts, the ocean becomes that place where all life originally starts anyway. Well, at level one, what are you going to say about a text like this? What is it about? In a single line, the joy of nature, the absence of human effects. Notice a poem where there is virtually nothing human at all, and yet the poem is full of these humane appreciations. At 2a, well, somehow, right, nature does work in spite of human interference at times. At 2b, as we've already pointed out, it is a brilliant construction, right? It does move like waves undulating, because especially of the syllabic creation. We've already mentioned at 3a, T.S. Eliot in the Dry Salvages. I'd like to juxtapose as well this poem with Elizabeth Bishop's The Fish, which is, of course, her classic for 303, a poem that we've already lectured in 303 at Lernstrom.net, a poem that we all love. And then finally in 3b, what is your relationship to the sea, to the power and the force of the ocean? How does thinking about the ocean force you to kind of slide into a certain frame of reference, a certain point of view? Well, I hope this will lead you to even more of the great Marianne Moore and her poetry. Can't read too much of her, right? Thank you.